him this season a bit more than perhaps you thought you would? Because he's been one of the most heavily criticised players in this Leicester team.
Yeah, he has been heavily criticised this season.
Justified?
I think that's yeah, for sure justified. If you go on how he was last season, he was absolutely outstanding last year, and I think it was the year before also where he was in team of the season in the whole of the Premier League. So he set himself those standards to try and reach the top, and he has done that. And it's now this season, for one reason or another, it hasn't happened so well for him. But listen, I don't think it's just him. I think the whole team in general, as you can see from the league position, I think we've gone fifth, and now all of a sudden it's 13th or 14th has not been as good. And I think I don't think it's helped him not having Johnny Evans or Fofana next to him, who obviously had Johnny for 2 years, and Wesley Fofana, who came in last year and was looked to be an outstanding signing and an outstanding young player in his first season. So when you've got a mix and match back four, like he's been playing with, James Justin's had injury, Ricardo's had injury, Castagna's had injury. To be fair to Soyuncu, he's been the only one who's been fit and out there every week. And yeah, he's found it tougher this season and then probably in his last couple. But, you can still rely on him to at least be out on the pitch and giving his all, because he does give his all 100% every game. Yes, he can do rash things, but I think that's what also makes him, effective as a defender as well, because he will put his body on the line. Not always your hand. I don't know what he's thinking there. That's indispensable. But, like I say, he will always give 100% for the team, and he is always 100% fit, which is what Leicester have needed at the moment.
Kev, I don't know how much of Leicester you watched, but you did play for the club. I know you went out on loan. When you look at the centre-backs and who's been available this season, because they have been beset by injuries, which is a common theme over the last couple of seasons, it's nothing new here. But is there sometimes a lack of pace in the centre of the defence? Because when you look at Soyuncu, he's not the fastest individual out on the pitch. And when you have someone like Evans, if he's fit and he plays, he doesn't have that much pace either. Is that a long-term issue if they're going to continue to build with those two at the back?
I think Johnny Evans, the key to it is experience, Adam. Johnny Evans has the experience. Very rarely you would see Johnny Evans get done by somebody quick because he reads the game so well. Soyuncu over the last 2 seasons, you can't really say, he's not the quickest and he keeps getting done by speed. His levels over the last couple of seasons have been great. This season, they haven't had that continuity in the team. The levels of the team have dropped. Soyuncu's level himself has dropped, and you just have to put it down to that. I think Fofana is a key player to the way they want to play. He adds a little bit more pace at the back, but I just think Leicester's level has dropped this season. I'm not going to say speed or anything like that is essential for Johnny Evans or Soyuncu, because they're not the slowest and they're not the quickest. They've got the experience, but Leicester haven't been the same because of injury.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at this. Let's try to map it out, how well these two sides have done during the course of the season, or badly in the case of Leicester. We've drawn up a graphic which I found to be extremely interesting in terms of how all the teams, the 17 teams that played in the Premier League last season, so minus the 3 who've been relegated and the 3 that have been promoted this season, here's how it currently looks like. Liverpool, from this stage last season, are 23 points better than they were. Arsenal are in second place, 17 points. Chelsea not too far behind on 15 points, and then Wolves before we start getting into single digits. That's fascinating, but equally fascinating is the bottom half of the said table, because it's propped up and it's bottomed out by a Merseyside club. Liverpool on one, Everton on the other with minus 21. We'll talk about the Toffees later. Leicester are just above them. They're 20 points worse off this year than they were last season. Now, injuries are one thing, Kingy, but there's been a lot of speculation about the future of Brendan Rodgers. Do you think that he will be staying? I'm not asking if you think he should, just a question of, do you think he will, given some of the pressure that he's received?
I do think he'll stay, yeah. I obviously know a lot of Leicester fans and things like that, and I think the general consensus is that he deserves to stay. He's been brilliant for 3.5 years now. I think it is. He's won trophies. It's always going to be you sort of have a transition every 3-4 years, and maybe into that now. I think there's a few lads with 18 months or a year at the end of the season left in their contract. They're probably going to be moved on, and he's going to have to sign maybe another 5 or 6 new players. And I know injuries. Every club has them, but when you've missed Jamie Vardy for large parts of the season, you've missed Johnny Evans for large parts of the season. They're the two key players, well, two of the backbone of that team. Yuri Tielemans probably Yuri being, until this season, the other member of that. And obviously, he has his own contract issues going on, whether he's going to stay or he's going to leave. So if you look at that over the previous 3 years, those three players who've been the main three players of that team with Kasper in goal, to have the three of those not playing regularly every week is certainly had a massive effect on the team. And you look at players like Daniel Amati this season. Daniel's been at the club probably 6 years, 5-6 years now. He's played more this season than he's ever played before. He's always been more of a squad player in previous years, but this season, because of injuries and stuff like that, he's found himself playing every week. So I think that shows you sort of where Leicester are at the moment.
Kevin, your take on the Rodgers situation at the club? Because we should also throw in this little caveat. He doesn't tend to stay beyond 3 years at a club. So it's almost uncharted territory at this stage for Brendan Rodgers in terms of longevity.
Yeah, I think they moved heaven and earth to get him. And they've been successful. Over the last couple of seasons, obviously won the FA Cup fantastically. But over the last 2 seasons, they just fell out of the Champions League, didn't they, on the last day or
in back-to-back seasons?
Yeah. But, you know, we're talking about Leicester here, Adam. We're not talking about one of the big boys. We're talking about Leicester. Leicester are a good, progressive club who are doing big things. And I think Brendan Rodgers should take a lot of credit for where they have been all season, been at the top end of the table. Just fell away at the end, which can happen. But when it mattered, he's brought an FA Cup to the club as well. So I think fans tend to realise what's going on. They do understand there's contract issues, there's injuries, etc. But one thing I will say, Adam, is this. Fans don't like it when form drops and keeps dropping. So this season might be more of a transition season. I think Brendan Rodgers will stay, but they better be improving next season, that's for sure, because the Leicester faithful won't be happy if they don't.
Yeah. The general sentiment, Kingy, I'm not in the UK. I can only see things online. But what's the sentiment from the fans towards Brendan Rodgers right now? Are they still happy with him?
Yeah, fans will want Brendan to stay. They're happy. They can see the job he's done. Listen, Brendan took over from Claude Puel, who was almost sending crowds to sleep with the style of play, and Leicester were not flirting with relegation, but never going to be above probably 12th in the league and probably never going to be below 18th. It was one of those types of football. So the way that Brendan came in, refreshed the style of play, got fans off their seats again. It was a brilliant start. And like you say, he's delivered 2 trophies if you include the Community Shield. He's brought European football back to Leicester, having had within the 2016 group, which he then had to try and replace as well. So I think the work he's done, if you look at over a 3-year period, I think he must be coming up or just fit past his 3-year sort of anniversary at the club. And I think nobody would have expected to have done so well as when he took over. But listen, when you taste the good life as such, being at the top of the league, being in Europe and being in Champions League places for long parts of the season, or finishing 5th and having European football and Europa League football at your stadium, as supporters, all of a sudden, if you don't have that seems like failure, even if you're not used to it before. Once you've tasted it, like Leicester have in 3 of the last 5 or 6 years, to then not have it does seem like failure. So I completely agree with Kevin. He's got the backing of the fans, I know that. But it will be a certain time where if after this summer it doesn't improve, then I'm sure he'll know as well as anyone that, fingers may start to point towards himself. But in a 3-year period he's been, I think he's been absolutely brilliant.